Hello. Can you hear me? All good? I have a small delay, I think a few seconds. So I see Ilya, I see Juan. How was your day, guys? Intro. Good afternoon. Don't hesitate to use the chat to ask questions or express your opinion about some topics here, or pose questions, comments, whatever you like. I have here a Trello board with 2 columns, like what do we want to do today and complete it. I guess we want to relax a bit, enjoy the afternoon and try to learn something together here. First, I would like to show you some things you can use to build your own server application with Swift. Maybe you heard about Vapor. So I would like to showcase building a server application with this thing called Vapor, and we'll see together what it is. Learn what is Vapor mostly. And it would be quite cool to also communicate with that server application. Do something and try to open the doors for a future, I don't know, incremental way of adding things here. And whatever you want, just use the chat and place some comments there. If you want to see something specific, you want me to go deep into a subject or try to focus on more on a topic, please use the chat and let me know. Otherwise, I will move on. So build the client iOS application that communicates with the server. And what else? Let's use also some AI tools, because it's quite the hype and we are using them, or most of us are using them day by day, and see what makes sense from an iOS point of view as an iOS application developer or mobile app developer. I will try to give some details about what I'm currently using and what tools I've used and are quite nice. I won't have time to tell you all aspects about them, but at least you can search after the session and learn more about a specific tool you found interesting in this live. What we can use as iOS developers. All right. So first, I'm curious, if you want, if you are using some tools on your side. I guess most of us are using ChatGPT, or started with ChatGPT, and now we're using a lot of other tools to ask things around about the code base, to use a body that can pair program with us and so on. So yeah, let me know what you're using. I have here Claude, which is a nice one. I'm using the desktop application here, and if you don't know what's Claude, I mean, it's a client application, macOS here. You can see here on the right the website which brags about the product. It's like you have here the chat, and you can ask questions, and of course you'll have the answers. It uses features, capabilities such as code generation and so on, and it's quite nice. And in terms of payment, you have the free plan, and you also have some other plans like the pro plan. You have different features about it, and this is pretty much the business model of all of these AI tools, software and LLMs. And yeah, I we can use this to do more than just ask questions and wait for it to respond. We can like delegate some aspects of our work. For example, for this specific live session, we would probably need a repository or a place where we can put the code in, and we can ask Claude to create that repository for us and create and push the files into the repository, and then we can take them, clone the repository locally, and do a lot of stuff with that. And we can say like add something like a readme file that provides some overview of iOS project, and let's tell him that the readme file should focus specifically on Swift full stack development, explaining its purpose or high level aspects about Vapor server side framework, and some setup instructions, whatever. I mean, I'm doing a lot of instructions here, but you get the point. Let's do not create any other files or directories. Actually, we can create a git ignore file specific to Swift. I mean, yeah, if you want to learn more about Swift, this session is more focused on Swift, so not on Kotlin or some Android part. But I guess you can steal some ideas and use them in your Android app development, whatever makes sense for you. Okay, do not create any other files. I've done it before. Before the session, I went into a dry run and created the actual repository on GitHub using the prompt that I'm showing you here. Here you can see like the information that it gave me. It could like parse the information as a JSON. Then it went through the MCP server API, executing some commands here. Created a public repository. Here is called Swift Supercharged dry run with the description, and it added the README file on the repository. So if I'm going to my repository right here, I could see like the thing was created. So I have here the repository that I previously created before, and it has a README file with some general information, are not quite up to date, and it added a commit message. But if you have a batch of informations or have a large instruction set, it will know directly how to parse that information and split also the commits in a very good way, very concise, and it was quite nice, and not do a big commit right from the start. Okay, I was talking about the MCP, and was open sourced last year by the company that created also Claude Entropy, and they provide a common way, a shared way to talk with these AI assistants. You have some information that you want to pass to different external systems. You can tie together the nodes between them, and you have here some details about it for those who don't know. There are plenty of videos on YouTube. Go search it out. So it's basically an open standard that enables developers to build secure two-way connections between their data sources and AI power tools. This is quite a hype, and you can achieve a lot of stuff. And in terms of the general architecture, you have here the host, the client applications like Claude, ChatGPT, whatever you're using to ask the LLM, and you communicate with different servers, tools, MCP servers, and those MCP servers would be actually some APIs that or some front-end application, not front-end, sorry, that can execute some logic or communicate with different external systems. In our case, GitHub, and it uses those API client, the GitHub API to communicate with my message, and then uses the format, nice format for the message, so it knows better what to do. And you have a list of MCP context protocol server here in a GitHub repo, and there are plenty of stuff you can use. I have GitLab, Google Drive, Google Maps, whatever. In our case, this GitHub repository, it has plenty of stuff. You have here some features. You can create or update files, push files, search repository, create, and so on. And in the end, if you go further and try to understand, hey, what's happening there, you have the code source available. It's open source, and here you can see like it's creating some functions, TypeScript functions, which communicate with that GitHub API, and you have the tools, the MCP tools, the simple functions that I was talking about, that are like some functions that are developed here, and it gets the message to JSON and so on. So it calls the GitHub API basically. All right. So so after we successfully created the repository with Claude, then we can move on and try to clone the repository somehow. And you can use like simple git clone, whatever, but I would like to show you another tool that it's quite interesting, and it's very powerful. It's called Warp, and it looks like this. It's a terminal window, and here on the right is like the website, and you can install it by brew or download for Mac, and here you have some information about it. It's essentially a very powerful command tool where you can type naturally in English, and you can ask different chat agents to do something for you without learning the specific commands. Like I could say, can you clone this repository for me? And here I can place the one that I created previously via the Claude application, and I can take the URL or here, and I can ask Warp to do that for me, and they will prompt me if I want to do that. I can say enter run, and it will run the command, and this way I can directly communicate with this tool to achieve some things for me. And I will skip it for now, and here you can use different models as you have in other places, and there's also some nice and crazy things here where you can automate some parts. You have like big commands and you want to create some kind of a workflow. Imagine like on the most likely on big project or big code bases at work, where you need to use Fastlane or other tools, and you can tie them together and create a workflow for you that makes sense, and you can create this into Warp and directly execute it. It's quite nice. You can check their website. And here you have some notions about the details and some other features on their website. In terms of costs, it costs like $18 per month, the pro version, but you also have the free one, which I'm using, and Turbo, which gives you unlimited benefits here, as you can see, and it's also can be paid as a yearly subscription and so on. All right, so Vapor, we forgot about Vapor. Let's see what happened there with the repository. So what's Vapor? Vapor is server-side Swift. So if you want to create a backend application in Swift, this is how you normally do it. And it's a high-level web framework which is built on top of 𝒕𝒐𝒏. I'm going to open the backend application which I created. But alright, so if you want to try it out, you have here a nice guide. So first you need Xcode, of course. Let me make it a bit bigger. And you need to install the Vapor toolbox, which are some command lines. It got an upgrade recently. And you would, let's use a normal terminal. You probably go into the folder that you want, and here you would do Vapor, Vapor new, and here you can place the name of the project, and there you'd create your Vapor application. And then after it gets created, I mean, let's do that. Vapor new live demo. It will clone the template. And here you have some questions. If you don't want to be asked about these questions, you can say -n from the beginning. Here it asks me if I want some kind of solution for my database. I wouldn't want that for now. And here is some leaf HTML template. I would say no, just keep it simple. Wow, project has been created. Now I can change directory to it, live demo, and here I have some bunch of files. The most important is the package.swift, which we can open directly in Xcode. Make this smaller. And there you go. Okay, so I'm using Xcode 16.3 beta 3. My Mac is not that new. I have an Intel version, i9, so I'm not even having the M1, and it's very slow, but it gets things done. It's fine about it. Now I've opened the Vapor application that was created by that template. Let me close this. And on the left I have a bunch of folders. Let me make it a bit bigger. The package dependencies are being downloaded at the moment, so it uses Swift Package Manager to download the dependencies. And here I have some folders, as I mentioned. You have the package.swift, which is the entry point and tells how to create the application. We have a bunch of dependencies, the Vapor framework, Swift 𝒕𝒐𝒏, which is used for Vapor, like Vapor is built on top of Swift 𝒕𝒏, and some dependencies like the ones that are being collected from these two repositories. In the public folder, you'd probably want to place some content that you want to make available externally, such as, I don't know, icons, HTML files, whatever makes sense. The most important one is the sources folder, where you can have multiple things that are specific to your application logic. You can place models, controllers, entities, whatever makes sense. The main application, the entry point to this server application, is inside entry point.swift, and as you can see here, it uses that main and has a static function main. And in this place, you would want to create the environment. You can use different environments. You create the application using that environment, then you run the application itself. You want to configure it first, and by configure I mean, let's go here, say the routes, how your routes should behave here. By routes, I mean you have some requests coming into the application and you need to pass some response to the client apps which are interrogating your server, and you do that here in this routes application server. Okay, so let's run. It will take some time to run because on the first try it needs to build all of those dependencies. It takes a lot of time, and of course you have tests. You can test what you're doing, and here it used the 𝒐𝒊𝒕 test framework, but it's quite cool because the people from Vapor migrated most of the tests to the new Swift testing framework, and it's quite nice because you can use those new way of writing tests. And finally, routes is, as I mentioned, where you define. So here you configure the routes and put, like, not configure but register the routes, and in this you actually write the routes, or you can create the controllers. Like, controllers are groups that handle the routes for you, and it generated 2 routes for me. This one with get, which if I'm hitting the localhost URL or the endpoint, it will return it works, a simple string, and here I'd get a hello world if I'm hitting the localhost /hello. So nothing fancy. Alright, so it's currently building. We need to wait a bit. I'm curious, did you use Vapor in the past? Do you know most of their functionality? You're using any nice features from it? Okay, and while it launches there, the documentation is pretty well structured. You would want to go here into the basics if you don't know the basics, and you have like a good structure of the information. You have like good explanation about routing, what it is, HTTP methods that you can use. You have here the mapping, the CRUD, create, read, update, delete, some examples, and a lot more other stuff. And as you can see, like, you can use multiple paths. Like the endpoint can be added like foobar baz in this example, and you'd like use commas to separate those directories or the path components. Cool. Okay, I see first time there. Yeah, that's cool. It's called Alex sidebar. I'm opening here, and you can see I have a right menu here which directly opened the context with Xcode here, the blue icon. I mean, it's pretty small, but and I can type something here and it gets the context for my project. There are plenty of features here where I can use different agents which are trained for iOS and Xcode specifically. I can place a screenshot of an application that I want to do, and it will generate code for me. Or I can ask something about some piece of code which I don't know. It's quite powerful. It's not that powerful as cursor, but for me it gets most of my use cases completed. You have here the website, so I think it's alexcodes.app, and what's nice, because you have some good practices on how you can make your message more iOS or more specific to what your need. The model configuration, you have also some Git integration here, and you can use this thing like custom prompts, similar to what you have in cursor. I will show you in a minute. Alright, so the server started here on this localhost URL. Alright, so if I'm clicking send here, it will hit my Vapor application. It's pretty small. I can make it a bit bigger, and you see here the message. Make it a bit smaller. All right, there you go. It works. So I got a request here inside the routes.swift, and it hit. Of course, you can go deeper, create your own routes specific to your need, to your CRUD, to your end. All right, and here you can see a warning: no custom working directory set for this scheme using blah blah derived data path. This basically complains that I don't have a working directory and I need to set one, otherwise it would use the default one which points to the derived data. And I can go here inside my scheme and I have a options tab, and here I can select and place my directory into whatever I want to use. Like, I think this is the repository, and here I can create a new folder, working directory, and click create, and I can choose this one. And here I can have the path, I can close, and everything will be dumped in that folder. Alright, so about routes, you'd probably want to specify different parameters. Let's say you have a cars or vehicles entity and you want to create some HTTP methods or endpoint API methods around that cars entity, and you probably want to get the cars, create new car, update and delete. If you want to get a car, you can have this thing get by name or get by ID, and you have the, let me put here, you can use the parameter in the path like this with colon and the name of the parameter, and inside the body you can take it. You can say request.parameters.get, and here you put the name of the information, like the parameter here. I'm having the ID, and I can say car with ID. Here you normally go into a database, fetch the information, transform it as a JSON or whatever you use for communication, and return it back to your client application. All right. I'm running again, but I think it's obvious what this will do. So the important thing is, like, you can use a column and place the name of the parameter to extract the information or to pass the information to your application, and you can use it in the URL, like / the ID of that specific car. Now, if you want to do more, of course, and you probably want to do more, then you'd probably want to create posts method, put methods that can be used to create information, store it somewhere, and so on. So basic stuff for it. And then you'd move into a territory for actual objects. Like here you see I have primitive, I have strings, I don't have much, and also some ID, which it's also a string in the end. But if you want to go more deeper, you can use structs or classes, but it's recommended to use structs. You can use car, for example, and here you place like the ID. You can make it UUID or ID or whatever. Brand, string, whatever parameter makes sense. And if you want to use this as part of a response or as part of your incoming routes, you'll have to implement this protocol called content, which essentially is some kind of a encodable or decodable, a codable protocol as you have in the iOS applications, and it will serialize and deserialize the information for you, essentially. And you can say app.post, and here you can say cars request in. So this is a basic closure. You can take the car out of the request, of course, and here you have a dot, and if the autocomplete, you have dot content, and this container is used to read your decodable type, meaning that you can take the information from the request and place it as a struct, as a object directly here, which is quite nice. Car.self, and return something. Let's say HTTP status. Okay. Yeah, so here it doesn't know. So you have the content, but you also need to decode from the content. You cannot like do that. And you can also, I think it also works if you place here the car and directly use decode. But I know, sorry. So okay, you get the car, and then you can do something with the car. Print something like the brand, whatever you put in into that response, and basically that's it. Like, you get the information out of the request. Here you can use the database to sort it and return something. Okay, it created the car for me, and this is alright. Like, you can use post here to try it out, and it will create a car and print. Anyways. And you move on with creating your objects here, and in case you have a big application or things might get a bit messier here into the routes, you might want to separate the logic, group better the things here, and we have this notion called controllers in Vapor, which are basically some files, some structures where you can group together the logic for that specific domain object, the domain entity, or some special thing that you want to do. And in there you would create your post, your put, your delete method specific to that entity. Anyways, all right, so I'm not sure if this will work, but I need to create a JSON here. I have the body. All right, you can create post. If this thing will work, you'll create the car here with the post data. So I can select, let's put row, and here I can say brand and say Volvo. Alright, so I got the response back here in the print. Of course I can put a breakpoint and try here, and I can debug the Vapor application in the debug. But alright, so for the iOS application, most likely we want to use Swift to do it, and we can create a new project. I will select the default one, Swift client app. Next, go through the things here, go into the Swift Lite demo. Let's put it here and use the iOS app, create a folder specific for it, and I can create here the project. And if Xcode won't work, you always can use Cursor for iOS app development and some other stuff, but of course you won't have the good benefit of debugging errors and putting breakpoints that easily. But you definitely can run iOS projects inside Cursor. And I'm opening here a window where I've used it for a small application. connect it with the server. Okay, let's make it a bit bigger. Alright, so I have cursor, which is like a fork of VS Code, yeah, and probably you heard about it. And on the left I have the project, the Xcode project, with some files in it. And I'm using here the a network manager built by Cursor, which connects to my local host and fetches the data with a sync await and gets the information back to the UI in like a text. And everything was built by it, and you can see here like the information that it outputted me. I have like a small breakdown of steps, and I actually take the div here and place it inside of my code. What's quite nice is you have this file cursor roles that you can create for your project, and here you can put some specific messages that you can use to make the agents better and write better code for an iOS point of view, or from a Swift developer point of view. And you have those prompts, basically you have them as a in here in cursor.directory, and you can search for Swift in this file, and you can like take the prompt and copy paste it into that markdown, use it as a baseline for what you want to achieve. You have here the text, and you can copy paste it here, and you can provide better information for your specific project. You can place the folder tree of your project. You can mention details of what you're trying to do with the application, and the agents will respond better to your questions here or your text, and generate better code, generate better things here, which is quite nice. And there's a plugin. So there was a problem, like you have this cursor IDE, and you have some Swift iOS code in here, and you like to run it on somewhere, on a device, on a simulator, and you can use a plugin called SweetPad. And this plugin it gives you some nice Xcode iOS development benefits, like you have autocomplete, you have build and run, and you can see here like you can mimic away the experience of an iOS developer, and you can run the destination on a simulator, or whatever makes sense for your use case. And essentially it runs some Xcode build commands in here, and you can check the simulator and so on. Anyways, let's stop. Close here. Right, so we have the hello world here. Oh my god, it took like forever. And all right, so and the server started in here, and I have two things here. I have the 𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉 extension, where I can type something here, and I will get some suggestions from 𝒂𝒊𝒕𝒉 to apply. You have this box, accept, and you have some ways to navigate through this list, like shortcuts, whatever makes sense. But you can also use Copilot for your completions. And as I mentioned, you have this open chat, and let's close this one. Can you generate a network API call to my Vapor server application on localhost, and try to put this API here. You should call this from the UI. Alright, I see some movement here waiting for model, so I'll probably see some output. I will see if it's good or not. I can, so if I'm doing Command Shift L or Command L, I can directly provide the context here of the file, or if I do Command L, it will open a new chat here. And here I can say, make a simple async await API call to my local host server, and it should like create the methods for me. I can check here, I can do what we can do, like we need to fetch the data here essentially, and we can do that ourselves. Create a function, fetch data, my sync throws, and let's create the URL, the endpoint string, and here let's take the one from the server, this one, HTTP, else what we can do is like we can throw something here because it can fail. That URL. Alright, and I can take the response, I await, and let's use the shared session. URL session shared data from the URL from above. Response as HTTP URL response. Let's verify also the status code is 200 or not. Alright, response equals 200, else, so something like, I don't know, bad server response. And finally we can return the, so here I am having the response as a HTTP response, and data is like obtained already. You should have the data object itself, and I need to return it as a string data with a UTF encoding. Otherwise, let's say no data. If this failed, I won't throw anything. And I can say here fetch data, and because call can throw but it's not marked, I can put await and try. Alright, I have an error. Network manager, where are you? Okay, I don't need it anymore, and I have the content view directly here, so nothing special. And here I can delete the state object because it's not used. What else? Okay, let's delete this and leave it, keep it simple. Let's put a breakpoint maybe here. Alright, so alright, so I have it works. It means like it hit my endpoint, my Vapor server here, which basically was essentially what I wanted to do.